Well, hello and welcome to the favorite part. I mean, it's Friday, and Friday is what we normally have big personalities, and we delve into their affairs. You know, politely, but we are allowed to delve into their affairs, and we're grateful they open up. And some of their life stories teach us the lessons. It tells us where to tread and where not to tread. And as we shaping up and building up our lives, you can always, pick from other people, and it says, what's better way to develop than good and positive association. And that's what we're going to do. Going to speak to a man that I've really grown to admire, a man that I observe from afar. So I'm going to use this opportunity, but even though I'm going to delve into his personal life a little bit, I'm going to delve into a general aspect of what he does, because I think Christians are becoming an endangered majority. Normally, endangerment comes to the minority, but I think Christians are becoming a endangered majority. There are a few people who have hijacked the principles of Christianity, and they are running like hell with it. How do we come? When I come back, I'm talking to a very, very fine gentleman. My name is Nana Asakwa IV, Chief of the famous Little Republic of Akwemwedomasa. You don't want to move away. Stay tuned. Thank you very much for staying, and we are talking to Bishop Samuel Mensah, who is the leader, overseer, head of Full Gospel Church International. Full Gospel Church International. And I wonder what it is like to run a church, because the human institution is one of the most difficult institutions to run, I'm telling you. Be it a church, village, town, country, whatever it is. Here, a wise man once said, look, I'd rather herd 1 million cattle than just give me 5 people to herd. Because everybody's individual, and you, the leader, have to harness them and take them where it is that you see fit that they go. How difficult is that to do in a church? Bishop, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Nana. Thank you very much.
Now, on the 24th of August will be Bishop's 60th birthday. I want to be the first. PMS supposed to be the first. This is an extra advance happy birthday. You see, this is an extra advance happy birthday. I bet even Mrs. Mensah hasn't wished this happy birthday.
You're too smart.
So, happy birthday in very, very much advance.
Thank you very much.
Good. But 60, you're looking sharp. Picture. Yeah, you're doing something right. We need to copy all that. Oh, what a conversation. I only have, few minutes, but Bishop, I'm going to try and get as much as I can from you. Now, even though I want to know about Full Gospel International, I just want to go just a little bit back. I mean, like when you were growing up, did you know, look, I'm being groomed to come and take over this church, or, you were just being groomed to go do your own thing? And
I think from beginning I was just groomed like any other individual being groomed to become responsible in future. That my father created an environment that I would become very effective in society. My father didn't have an idea that I should be groomed to become a pastor. As a matter of fact, he himself was just, working at State Transport Corporation at that time until he got committed, born again through a crusade by T.L. Osborne. And he was a member of the Presbyterian Church, and they settled around Abosokai. And then he was transferred to Tema somewhere around 1963. And, he received the gifts and the grace of God and the gift of healing. At that time, he was very effective in prayer and healing. But at that time, Presbyterian Church didn't accept the theology of supernatural healing and intensive prayer. And so for Presbyterian, it was like this was no-go area. And he saw people coming for his prayer meetings, and he was holding prayer meetings during the period of the week. And so my dad's intention was just to raise children just like any other child. So I wasn't prepared for that, until, somewhere in the early part of 70s, Presby said, hey, we don't accept this. You either stop or we will ask you to leave. So he was kicked out from the Presbyterian Church. But today, Presbyterian Church wouldn't do that again. You know, but at that time, they didn't accept the power of God of healing and prayer and what have you. So he was kicked out. And that gave birth to the Full Gospel Church International, which was the first Pentecostal charismatic church in Ghana.
It's safe to say that was a visionary then.
Yes, indeed. I mean, there was something that was driving him to empower people, and people were receiving healing, they were getting saved. He led even the Presbyterian Church in establishing a lot of churches around Ningo, Pram, Dowenya area. But, you know, he refused establishing a church until he was asked, go out. And then he asked himself, what am I going to do with the people? So that led to the church. And then eventually, my intention was to read petrochemical engineering. And somewhere in the mid, I think 79 thereabout, you know, some ministers from Canada visited our church. And then they spoke to my heart. They spoke that, look, God was calling me into ministry. I resisted. And my mother was telling my dad, hey, don't force him. If that is not what he wants to do, let's leave it to God. And until the Lord himself convicted me. And then instead of going for petrochemical engineering in Poland, I responded to the call, went to Bible school, and then to Canada and got back into ministry.
Pastor, let me ask you a very tricky question. You know, there's this general perception that you know, the pastor's son, they're always the radical ones. I mean, when you were growing up, were you know, one of the lads out there, or you were always the, you know, pious type?
I think by nature I was the cool type, to the extent that when even people heard I was going to become a pastor, they wondered and doubted whether they didn't believe I could become a preacher, because they looked at me and they said, Sami, I mean, how can he address the public? How can he address people?
Still reserved.
Exactly.
Wow.
You know, I like to be in my room and do some readings and just be with myself. So, but the other hand, sometimes I wanted some kind of freedom, you know. The thing I really fought against was when people will always, my friends will always tease me. You know, they had to take up an offering for his, you know, for his dad so that he could pay his school fees. That I hated the idea.
Oh dear.
You know, I really hated it. Because at that time, my dad didn't take any salary from the church. He literally spent all his money. You know, you'll be surprised. When he left the public sector, his gratuity, the entire money he received, he plugged it back into the church. He gave it back to the church. To the extent that my mother said that was a very nasty decision he took.
Oh dear.
Because they didn't see the future. They said, look, we were young, we were less than 17 years at that time. And my mom asked my dad, what is going to be the future for the family if all that you have earned in your life, you've given it back to the church? But he said, you know, his business is to build God's house, and God will also build his house for him. That was the principle he adopted. And today, we have seen the fruit, the faithfulness and the goodness of God.
How many siblings are you?
I have 5. I'm the first on the list.
Okay.
And with 3 other guys, including a sister. You know, so
are they all part of the ministry, or they're more into their own business?
My sister is married to a guy who is also part of ministry, doing ministry. My brothers are into business. One of my brothers, Nat, is now getting into ministry also. But he's also a businessman and also doing ministry. My brother is one of my brothers, Danny. He's into oil and gas industry. Has businesses all across.
Following your original dream.
Exactly. Now have businesses all across part of Africa in Dubai.
Okay.
They have set up a headquarters in Dubai, and he's doing very well. And he has a desire also for support of ministry.
Good. I mean, because of time, let me just move forward a bit and find. I mean, somebody saying, what's Full Gospel International? I mean, a little bit about the church.
Yeah, Full Gospel Church was born and birthed in 1978, and that was started by my dad. And the church has a vision. I mean, my dad took over, started the church and planted the church. And at the time he handed it over to me, we were 25 local churches. And just after 17 years, we are now 75 local churches. So my job is to add and multiply. And as a matter of fact, we have a plan and a vision. Every year, we have a vision of what we want to do. This year, we are planting 30 churches in addition to the 75. 30. In the next 5 years, when I'll be handing over to another third generation leader, I expect to hand over 250 local churches. In other words, I inherited 25 local churches, and I expect to hand over 250 local churches to the next third generation leader to take over. So Full Gospel has a dream.
You're second generation.
Yes, I am a second generation leader. I am a second generation leader. And you see, we are about one of the first few Pentecostal charismatic churches in the second generation leadership. Most of all the charismatic churches are still in their first generation. I normally say that most of all these churches are not yet institution. You know, for example, Church of Pentecost is an institution. Nobody goes to say, I'm going to Mackion's church. You know, nobody will say, perhaps I'm going to John Wesley Church. They're going to go to Methodist Church. But anytime people associate the church to the founder, and then they, instead of mentioning the name of the church, and they say, I go to so-and-so church, that should tell you that it's still a first generation organization. It is not yet an institution. Because if it's an institution, it will not hover around a personality.
It becomes bigger than the personality.
Exactly. But for now, most of the founding churches are now bigger than the organization themselves. But we have moved from that. You know, in the days of my dad, they would say, I'm going to Brother Mensah's church. But we have moved from there, and nobody says, I'm going to Bishop S. Mensah's church. No. I go to Full Gospel Church. Yeah. That is what institution must become, so that the institution would outlive you, the person that has established, you know, the church. And so we are in our second generation. And we are preparing a leadership drive whereby we will have the third generation leadership to take over the church, you know, from where I will hand over the baton.
Bishop, you know what I find very ironic? Even though your father left because he wanted to increase, you know, spirituality and everything, I like you because of your practicality. I.e., you chastise your congregation. Listen, drive properly, be courteous on the road. Don't litter, you know, be prompt on time. You know, I see, you know, I see that direction a lot in your teachings and your gospel. So it's very ironic that the whole church up was set, you know, for prayer. And you realize that I think sometimes Christians over-spiritualize we over-spiritualize things. So the guy hasn't got money. Well, as the devil, have you got a job? No, well, how are you going to else get money? So I mean, I don't know where the balance is, because I find you more practical than spiritual. If you know, if you know what I'm.
No, I understand what you're saying, and I strongly believe that the pulpit must connect to the pew. Okay. But unfortunately, the pulpit has failed to connect to the pew. We need to empower people so that the message must be, what am I supposed to do? At the end of the day, when you speak into the lives of the people, they should be able to go home with the how-to. Unfortunately, most of the time, we tell people what is wrong with them. And you and I know, people know what is wrong with them already. They know they are doing the wrong things. They know they are sinners. They know they need help. So you see, you don't go to when you go to the doctor, and then when you go to the doctor and then you complain of your sickness, and the doctor tells you, no, you are suffering from meningitis, you have this problem, you have that problem, you have that problem. You will be listening to the doctor and say, so what? You will ask yourself, so doctor, is there any way out for my problem? Unfortunately, most of the pulpit do not address the how-to. They tell the people what is wrong with them. And so people leave the church not knowing what they must do out of their situation. It is also true that I think now the churches are not helping the people. We are taking either undue advantage of the vulnerability of the people. You see, we are notoriously religious in this culture. We are notoriously religious. And so because of the fact that we are notoriously religious, most preachers are taking advantage of the vulnerability of the people instead of giving them the truth and the reality of the gospel. Because Jesus says, you will know the truth, and the knowledge of the truth shall set you free. Unfortunately, we want to give them messages that will let the people depend on the preacher instead of they knowing the realities of the truth of the word of God. And so people go out there and they are not empowered to be able to take responsibility. You see, I will want to produce a congregation that will believe in hard work. we must have a kind of Christians that believe in hard work, dignity of labor, be able to do something, and steady to become well approved and become better in society. But the moment we try to over-spiritualize everything, then we begin to, instead of taking responsibility for our destiny, we think that somebody is responsible for our downfall. And therefore, everything has become spiritual. The book of Paul made a statement in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20. He said, unto him who is able to do more than we can think or ask, according to the power that is at work in us. He used the word think or ask. And the Bible terminology for ask is prayer. For the first time in the New Testament, Paul, the apostle of all apostles, put the power of prayer and the power of thinking on the same level. In other words, he said the power of prayer and the power of thinking are equally important. We must do prayer, we must do thinking. Unfortunately, in most of our churches, we have overemphasized the power of prayer and downplay the power of thinking. And so we think that everything should be done by prayer. But not all problems are solved by prayer. A lot of the problems too must be solved by thinking. So people are not thinking. We are doing all the prayer, but our problems are still the same. That is why this country is still poor. I mean, we are more religious than Japan. We are more religious than Korea. We are more religious than Germany. But all these nations are highly developed. So if prayer alone can bring development to our nation, Ghana should have been a developed nation by now. Unfortunately, that is not the truth. So something is wrong. The churches must redefine their role, their mission, and their responsibility, and must equip the church members to believe in the power of prayer and the power of thinking. Now,
what's the verse again?
Ephesians 3:20.
Ephesians 3:20. So if you're home watching, you need to write it down. Ephesians 3:20. Either you ask or you think.
You think. He said, unto him who is able to do more than we can ask, dream, imagine, or think. So the power of thinking and prayer is equally important. You know, the symbol of prayer is the symbol of prayer. Yeah. Now, one hand represents divinity and one hand represents humanity. You put divinity and humanity together, that is prayer. So there is a God responsibility and human responsibility. Unfortunately, too many people in church are sitting down doing nothing and thinking God should fix all our problems for us.
Amen to that. But let me go back and then I'll come back again. Pastor, second generation businesses are very, very rare in Ghana. Very rare. Did Senior Reverend Mensah had a succession plan? Because most business, and I can list big and powerful names that have just died with the first generation. Is that something that you did? Was it planned? How has the church moved into second generation? And here you are talking about third generation. Right. And you're even mentioning 5 years. So that, you're going to step down and move on to the third one?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, when I took over, people were trying to judge me through the eyes of my dad. But one of the things I did, I am fortunate, because leadership development is one of my areas and skills. So that is my specialties. And so one of the things that I did was to define my own shoes. Because my dad's shoes was too big for me. My dad's shoes were too big. So there was no way I could fit into his shoes. I needed to redefine myself and be in my own shoes and be able to chart a course. You see, the problem of second generation leaders, sometimes when they take over or when a leader takes over from another leader, they try to downplay what they have inherited. And when you do that, you will have problem with that constituency because the people have reverence and respect for the one who handed over power or leadership to you. And so you need to honor the past with respect. And even if you want to change some things, don't downplay what they did, because what they did was relevant and effective at that time. But now that perhaps knowledge has increased, you want to improve upon that. So you don't condemn what the practice was at that time. You will honor the past, bury what has to be buried, but then redefine yourself. So I redefined myself, and then I cast a vision as to what I believe the church would do. One of the things I had to do was to ensure that, look, all our pastors need to upgrade themselves, and those who didn't have first degree needed to go to back to university.
that was like a suicidal decision. I mean, they say, how dare me?
And
why do I demand that, a pastor must have a degree? Because they felt that is a call. It's a gift from God. I say, yes, it is a gift from God. But with a lot of knowledge, you become better. Because we live in the knowledge economy now. Our congregation are well endowed with wisdom and ideas. Today's church are knowledgeable people. 40 years ago, Nana, most pastors were illiterate or semi-illiterates. At the time, 40 years ago, you will bear me out, that most traditional rulers were stark illiterates 40 years ago. Today, most traditional leaders are highly educated. Doctors, lawyers, you are one of them. Highly placed people in society are traditional leaders. And today, ministers are also attracting highly competent and qualified professionals. So if you are a pastor and you will not develop and equip yourself, you will belong to history. So my dream was make sure that all our pastors will have a minimum of first degree. And then we launched that. Today I say that to the glory of God. A number of them have first degrees and some of them are having their masters. Some are now planning to take up a PhD program. You see, and then we gave the church members themselves a vision to hold on and a vision to believe. We gave them about a 10-year vision plan that, look, if you are a woman, in the next 10 years, I want to see every woman drive a car. I want to see every woman. Because during those days, it was like women could not drive. We give them something. If you start a business on the tabletop, in about 10 years, you should have your store. You should be able to have a land. If you don't, you don't join this church and in the next 10 years, you are the same. No. You join this church, in the 10 years, you should be able to have a progressive life. You should be able to do something with your life and change your society. So we gave them vision, and that has led us to where we find ourselves today.
Wow. Because you're talking of vision and you're talking about leadership, and I know you are, a prophetic preacher of good leadership. Now, recently the president made a remark that he was prepared to put his presidency on the line, to stop galamsey. Now, as a teacher of leaders, would you say, look, that's a suicidal comment, or would you say, no, that's it, put your foot down and chart that course?
I think I applaud our President Nana Akufo-Addo for that statement. I think that was a very bold and laudable statement. Galamsey has become the threat to our society, to our social life. And definitely, I think he's made the right decision by ensuring that he will want to deal with it. Leaders must be very firm and very strong. So we need a very strong leadership to really drive our society. I think I can say with all confidence that we are a very stubborn society. Lawlessness has characterized our way of life. We have become indisciplined. We don't need a laissez-faire leader. We need a very firm, strong leader that will drive us, that this is the way to go. Some decisions that will pinch us, we would say, Jane, but in the next 4 years, we will find a better life, and then we will be proud of it. So for me, I think the president has made a very strong statement. We should all support him so that we can really drive this and solve this galamsey menace.
Because I've already seen pictures on social media where people are comparing the brim before and the brim now, and we are all smiling at the brim now. So probably goes to say that, look, in a long while, we all smile at it. But one big thing, Osofo, is Christianity becoming an endangered majority? It's once upon a time when you said you were a preacher man, it was like, whoa. But now if you say you're a preacher man and you probably don't defend yourself and say where you're coming from, everybody, there they go again. Because the stories that we hear, this preacher did this, took his wife, put some oil on somebody's private parts. Some of the stories are really, really unchristian. And they are quite a lot. Yeah. And they have the money. They buy the airtime and they are on TV. Come and buy this handkerchief if you want to get somebody's husband. Some of the things they do in the name of Christianity also is Christianity an endangered majority?
I wouldn't say so. Christianity is still the hope of our world. But if we balance the equation, and the Bible still has also prophesied and said that in the last days, these are the things that we will see. These are the things that we will experience. all manner of people will come. People will come in the name of Christ, doing all kinds of things. So what we see should not be a surprise. It is a sign that we are in the very, very last days, according to the scriptures. And therefore, it shouldn't be a surprise. However, we should be able also to communicate and teach the truth, that these are the things that people should experience and people should be able to respond and deal with. We have some organized groupings. For example, the Christian Council of Ghana is a well-established organization of the mainline churches, the Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic churches. They take care of the Pentecostal and Charismatic, organizations. We are about 200 denominations. And then we have the National Association of Charismatic, the NAC. Some of these so-called prophets and the people you are referring to don't belong to some of these three major organizations. And so it is sometimes very difficult to call people to order when they don't belong to a particular organization. Today you find a truck pusher, and then the next day or so he tells you he's a prophet.
Yeah, they start with a mic by the corner of the road,
and then the next day you find him, he said he's a prophet. No true prophet of God will do some of the things that we are saying, laying hands on the breast and squeezing the breast and then kissing the mouth. And one time somebody was carried like as if it's a paraquin, and then all kinds of things, and lying down on the human body. Jesus is our standard. And the very things he taught us are the things that we are supposed to do. But you see, the Bible has told us that people will do all kinds of things in his name. But he said in the last day, he will tell you, get behind me, I don't know you. You prophesied in my name, but you were doing things which have not been approved from the scriptures. So yes, you will find, we hear these things. But the more we hear them, the more we should also teach the truth. Unfortunately, we can't have laws to regulate. When we do that, then it means we want to stand for freedom of worship. And so that is the challenge our society would face. But the onus lies on these Christian organizations, the Christian Council, the Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Associations. They must start teaching more and trumpet this and give us a profile of who a true prophet is. But you see, it's a wave, Nana. Very soon, this so-called prophetic thing will die. But it is a wave. We have good prophets, to be honest. We have good prophets, but we have a lot of bad ones in the system.
I'm going to take a quick break, and then when we come, we'll just find out, with Bishop's busy schedule, is he able to have time to be a family man, and run a church? Have 75, 250 churches and a family, or the family has to wait 5 years when he retires, he come back to the family. Don't move, we're coming back. Well, thank you very much for staying, and we're talking to Bishop Samuel Mensah, leader of the Full Gospel International Church, and a leader, not only for the church, but a born leader. Bishop, are you able to have time for the family? Because the church life seems to be very hectic.
Well, indeed, the church life can be very demanding, very draining. As I speak to you today, I just got back from South Korea and Dubai, and just some few hours, and I have to organize myself and to be here. That should tell you the demand and the pressure of leadership and running a church. I don't only just run the church, but I'm also a leadership development consultant to train and develop leaders. I'm also an OD practitioner, an organization development practitioner. Just like a doctor is to the human being, OD practitioners are doctors to organizations. We go into the organization, find out the problems of an organization, where the problems are, help them to discover the problem, and help them to give them the tools that they can solve the problems themselves, so that the organization will be healthy. So I play, 3 roles. But I try to find time in my leisure hours to, rest and relax and be with the family. It's challenging, but you need to make some conscious effort to do that.
To stay with the family. Yes, the family very soon. Bishop is going to hand over, and so he'll be with you soon. leave him for God now, and he'll be with you soon. Bishop, this is one of my controversial questions that I asked every powerful man of God. It's the conflict between our culture and Christianity, where the average black man, Ghanaian, is constantly battling against himself and Christianity. I get it all the time. If I say I'm a chief, oh, may God forgive you. How can you be a chief and then be of God or worship God or be a Christian? When is it going to stop? Because we are at war with ourselves.
This is a great question you have asked as to when is it going to stop. I think until the churches get it right by redefining, understanding the dynamics of things. One of the things we teach our people is that every man born of a woman came into this world with 4 things. Every individual born of a woman came into this world with 4 things. We call it our GAP T. G for gift, A for ability, P for profession, and T for talent. And we are supposed to use this for 2 purposes: to serve God and serve humanity. So in church, you use this GAP T to contribute to the growth of the church. Outside the church, you use it to influence and to change your society. So our concept is that, like the pastor, my pulpit is in the church. For the church member, your pulpit is at where you are working. So if you are a market seller, you trade as a market person, your pulpit is in the market. If you are a medical doctor, your pulpit is in the consulting room. So if you understand that your pulpit is in the consulting room, you wouldn't demand as a doctor that somebody should bring a form, and maybe you need to demand 200 Ghana cedis and sign the form first, certify it before you give it to the person. You know that that is your pulpit. You are supposed to change and influence that society. So every area you find yourself, we can be effective. Whether it's a chief, a traditional ruler, you can change that society by the principles that you hold on to. So there is nothing wrong. We have demonized everything, that everything is demon. And I think, by and large, I think the pastors, we must also be responsible for some of these things. But once we start teaching the truth of it, we can redefine where we want to be. So there shouldn't be a conflict. Where the conflict would be is any culture that will inhibit human development, that will inhibit the development of people. That is something that we should rediscover and redefine. And of course, there are a lot of those traditions that haven't helped human society. These are the things that we should find out, ask ourselves, what are the things that we can identify as the cultural norms that haven't helped us become better as a society? Then we can transform that. But other cultures that have improved our lives, we should be able to hold on to. Some of the drums, music we can use. We can use the Pan Logo style in church. Okay, it depends upon what group of people you want to reach. So we can use our modern day instruments and also the Pan Logo group. So you can have a singing group who will do the Pan Logo and the Aduwa dance. And then, so there is nothing wrong, but we need just to balance the equation.
Doc, your 60th birthday would have been, 36 years in the ministry?
39 years in ministry.
39?
Yeah.
Whoa. How has it been, 39 years in the ministry?
There has been up and downs and challenges. Sometimes the people you sacrifice your life for are the same people who stab you at your back.
Yeah.
Sometimes the people that you have poured your life and everything. Church people, we are just a very interesting people. But again, you should understand we are human beings. And so we exhibit that traits of humanity. Sometimes you pour your life to those people. And
but also, is it not too basic that you know that as for this one in church, you must understand? I mean, doesn't it get that low where you think that, listen, I mean, this is church, and that as a church goer, a regular man,
yes,
you should understand. This is a basic that you should understand.
See,
the basic appreciation. I've given you everything. Yes. Just say thank you and go home.
Sometimes people don't just understand it that way. It is an institution that consists of different professions, different groups of people. So, for example, in the academia, the professor is addressing a class of first degree holders or master's class, and he knows that people are for the same level of understanding. So he throws the information. In church, you are talking to the illiterate, the highly educated, the highly professional, the highly placed, a mixture of all groups of people. You need to find a balance, a message that will appeal to everybody. And you can imagine, how would the illiterate understand what you are saying? How would the educated person also understand?
Not get bored because you're bringing it too low.
Too low. That is complicated. That is challenging. And so to sustain all this group of people and hold them together and move them to a desired destination, it will take skill and competence to do that. But sometimes very challenging, because human society is one of the most difficult people that you can manage.
I'm going to take a break here. When I come back, we'll find out how Bishop is going to celebrate his 60th. So clearly, something should be done. Don't move. Oh, how I wish I had more time. I just look on the phone and Mrs. Ansakwa was sending messages. He says, ask him about his own family. And is he expecting his son to take over? Mapadi, ask follow-up questions. They give their members vision. How do they do it? Do they teach them how to go about it? And yes, I wonder how I, as a Christian, I married a chief. Hey, you wouldn't even look at my messages. I wasn't looking at the messages. These were all messages coming from home. But is your son going to take over?
No.
The son's going to take over. So, you got that. Son's not going to take over. And then 2 sentences, how do you, once you put the vision out, how do you get them to sort of follow? Once you put a target out, how do you get them to go about it?
No, we keep reminding them. You see, you never get tired of casting your vision. We have what we call vision leaks, like a bucket that has a leakage. If you fill the bucket with water and there is a leakage, eventually by the time you get to your destination, there's no water in the bucket. Now, what leaders must do is to keep on filling the vision bucket of the people, because they are bombarded by all kinds of economic issues, social issues, marital issues, all kinds of issues. So through the word of God, you need to remind them what they have, what they are capable of doing, what they are capable of becoming, and so you keep on trumpeting that and show them examples of people that have been effective and successful. So that is a regular thing we do.
Let me go to your anniversary, 60 years. 39/40 years. That's a huge, that's a double milestone. Yeah. How are you going to celebrate it to impact the church and the followers?
Well, a planning team have been put together to organize that, and I think they want to put some surprises. But
Olali and Co.
Yeah. but one of the things I want to also give to society, I want to give them 2 books that I'm hoping by the end of somewhere in October, December, it should come out. One has to do with the power of teamwork. I am looking at the story of Chile. And 5 years ago, when 36 miners were trapped 2,000 feet in the ground, and for 3 solid months, 90 days, how that nation pulled 5 nations together and to solve this complex problem. I have looked at it and I'm working around the power of team building, how a society, a nation can surmount any problem at all through the power of teamwork. And also, I want to give to society the key competence skills of leadership. 10 core competence skills for leadership. And that is the book that I'm hoping, as part of my 60th birthday gift, I want to give back to society. These type of gifts that I believe can improve the lives of our society.
So at 65, you will hang the cassock, if I may say. That's very strange, isn't it? I mean, pastors don't necessarily just. So then what do you do then? Yeah,
my colleagues keep asking, am I sure that's what I want to do? They're asking, is that what I want to do? As look, my father handed over to me and lived 10 years to see me evolved and to improve my life. I also want to hand over the baton to the 3rd generation. As a matter of fact, we have redefined our constitution, and our constitution is looking into the next 30 years of the life of the church. Okay, and so I want to hand over in the next 5 years. At that time, I hope to hand over 200 to 250 local churches. And then that leader, when he takes over, in 5 years, he should be able also, if he will be moving off the scene, he should be handing over 500 local churches. Everything is well laid out. All right. So once I hand over, my focus would be to be continue my advisory. I want to become an effective advisor to government, not only government of Ghana, but government in Africa, to be a UN consultant. I want to travel across the continent of Africa, improving the life of the community people. People have been trapped into old traditional beliefs that is fighting their human development. And I believe I have the competence and the skill to help a community have a renewed change of mind and change of attitude so that they can embrace policies that can improve their lives. So I will want to be a UN consultant in that regard. So after 65 years, my life has been well defined already. I know exactly by the grace of God where I will be going between 65 to 70 if God gives me the strength and the grace. Okay, to become three things. One.
So when you come to church, you're not going behind the pulpit.
No, I will be moving from churches in our churches and be teaching on leadership and growth. I'll be teaching leadership principles.
But you will not be the leader of the church.
No, I will not be the leader of the church. There will be, but I will be the chairman of the board of trustees.
Okay.
All right, I'll be the chairman of the board of trustees. So there are issues that are more when they are complex and complicated. They will bring it to me. I will manage it and deal with it. But of course, the church will have a president I will lead. Whilst I will also spend my energy and teaching in the universities on leadership principles and what have you, and then an advisor to governments in Africa, and then a consultant to the United Nations.
Bishop, I will try and get you back, and I want us to look at the business of fear mongering in church, and also insecurity in nations, and how congregations can break out of the fear. And also we look at nations, how we can secure ourselves as a nation, because the conversation is broad and wide.
Yeah.
But I want to say big happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, you've done well, you've served God and man. And hey, one day you can say, look, I played my part. That's always something that I hope to be able to say, if you meet my maker, that hey, Nana Sagas, look, I played my part. I did what I could do. Thank you very much for watching. That's beautiful. And right after News File, we will repeat this. So if you're watching this on Saturday, well, it's after News File, and you're watching Bishop Samuel Mensah, 60th birthday edition personality profile right here. We'll be back to do all this again. But let me give you this number. It's 0303 202 260. 0303 202260 0303 202260. You can call the Full Gospel if you like that sort of teaching, that practical, the up and going, and maybe there's one in your locality. You can join the church. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back to do this all over again. Bishop, happy birthday. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.